how do people stream? I'm terrible at this. Hey, what's up, guys? Let's should we movie night it? I kind of just wanted to watch. There's a video that just came out that I really wanted to watch, and I figured we should do it on stream. Let's run it. What do you think? One's in the chat if we run it. How about that? Hi YouTube, hi Twitch. Get your highs in now. Kind of dig these streams specifically because they don't feel like normal live streams. I mean, yeah, that's what's up, dude. I appreciate that. Hopefully that's a good thing. I've talked about this in the like 2 other times I've streamed this year. And I guess for the Nouns Japan thing at the end of last year, it's like, dude, streaming culture is so whack. Like everyone has like the most canned responses. Like it's just so, I don't know. It's like, it's an art form, right? Like it's something that I'm just not as good at. Like just like how some people are not as good as like doing, you know, like traditional production like I am. Dude, I will not play Melee on stream. Maybe I will. I don't know. I would play like any other game, to be honest with you. Unless I do like a unranked to X rank challenge, and then I'd want to get like a player to coach me. I don't know. Like playing games is hard for me to do unless like I mostly play Marvel Rivals. I've been playing Eugenics since that came out. Magic will always be there. Like maybe I'll do Magic streams, but Melee is hard for me to stream. And I feel like I would be even worse because it's like, it's hard for the average player to just like be able to pay attention to chat and play a game like Melee. Saw the post for the stream, wonder what movies are cute. So I'm watching for sure one. I'm watching at least the homedawg video. If there's time and I feel awake enough, maybe we'll watch something else. You guys can put links in here as long as you don't get like insta-flagged. I don't really care. There aren't many rules here. Like just put links here if you want to, do whatever the hell you want. Just don't be like a dick. That's it. At least play a Smash game in general. That's literally your whole channel. My whole channel's editing. Smash is just the canvas, man. It's not, I don't know. I like playing. It's just like, I don't know. Streams, like I said, streams are tough. I don't want to be like performative in front of people. And I don't know if you guys really want to watch me play, especially because the narrative surrounding me for the Melee community was like, I'm not good enough at the game to like be having like opinions of value. So you gonna watch the Mario Galaxy movie? Oh, hell yeah, dude. None of the Smash YouTube guys I watch are top players. Yeah, but that was, listen, I've said it. It's been a narrative for a while. I could play Zane on his stream and then have Zane subject me to the horrors of what he did to his other friend. I can hang for the most part. It's just people think that I'm bad. I don't know. I've hung my hat on the fact that I was state PR years ago when I used to compete. And that's something I will never let die, even though people are like, the absolute goalpost moving when it comes to that shit is so annoying. They're like, oh, you were PR'd when you were active in 2014. That doesn't count. It's like, it doesn't count that I used to be like decent enough at the game. I don't know, man. Which character do I think will be next to win a major? Next to win a major is tough, man. I think Rap might have a tough time moving forward. DK's probably had his time. In Ultimate YOLO Jr., I play Incineroar, and I play, who else did I play? I played Plant when Plant like first released and was not good, and Plant is still not that good. All right. Let's watch it, because we've been fucking around for too long. What do you guys think? Second, the question about which tournament you're commentating. You're our #1 commentator for real. Thanks, I appreciate it. My calendar, dude, the calendar for Smash this year is so thin, which I'm thankful for. Like, traveling is tough sometimes, but I'm doing a ton of Brawlhalla this year, because I kind of screwed them over a little bit last year with just how unavailable I was, and then I got hospitalized and missed their biggest event of the year. Let me look at my calendar real quick, and then we'll get into the movie. Full House I'm not doing, which I'm a little bummed about, because Full House is really close to me. Like, it's not a long trip for me, a flight for me at all. But I have Brawlhalla the same weekend anyway, so hey, if you guys want to watch Brawlhalla, you should do that, because that's sick. Game's actually really fun to watch. So I'm doing Brawlhalla same weekend as Full House. Maybe there's a world where I like watch party Full House while I'm at the studio in Brawlhalla or something like that. Combo Breaker I will not be at, which I mean, they have Melee, I guess. Battle of BC is like probably yes. Brawlhalla mid-season in June. Brawlhalla in July. Brawlhalla over my birthday. Possibly Gommel the weekend after my birthday. CEO maybe, because it's a little bit dicey with Melee and Brawl there. Brawlhalla again. Brawlhalla again. There's like not a Tipped Off, I think, announced, right? tipped off I should be at. I think I booked my flight for it already. And then BCX, which is like the Brawlhalla Worlds Epic Tournament. And that's basically the end of my year unless like a magic event pops up. This is what we're watching, team. This layout is trash, so I'm gonna fix it. But we're watching a quick little long form feature length piece from homedawg, small creator who just started making some bangers here recently. Go subscribe if you're not already. They made this really fun video. I watched all of it on a 6-hour plane ride a few months ago, or I guess like 2 months ago when it came out. I actually am a little jealous because I wanted to do something similar, and I probably will at some point, but I'm gonna let him kind of like let this marinate for a bit. And then they made another one yesterday. And he gave me permission to watch it today. But yeah, go subscribe, dude. Get this guy to 1,000. How about that? He's only like, what, 56 away? Should I refresh right now? We have at least 56 people watching. I'm gonna refresh right now. Ludwig did this for me once and it was so funny because he fucked it up so bad. But let me see it. Let me see it. Oh yeah, he went up 1. Fuck yeah, let's get it, boys. But yeah, dude. I think he's been doing a lot of really cool stuff lately on YouTube, and I'm definitely excited to see what this person does next. It's tough to sustain videos of this length, trust me, as someone who's done something similar. Not to this level. Like, I did the Axe doc, which was like 45 minutes years ago. That was like during the pandemic, thereabouts. And that shit, like, writing the narrative was very hard for that. But it also lined up so well where it was like I had done an interview for Axe in like 2019, I think, or 2018 even. And then I just sat on it for a year because I just didn't really have a good story I wanted to put together with it yet. And then Axe won Summit, and I was like, all right, let's fire it off. It's so sick. But yeah, man, like, I think it's really admirable seeing someone like just put that much effort into this, especially as a brand new channel, right? Because the return on something like this can be really, really low. So it's clear to me that this person's doing it just because they really like the media form and the art form and just Melee in general. So my hat goes off to you, sir. Let's get a watch in. All right, let's get started. I'll probably just be stop and go on this if I have anything to say. You guys can obviously just go at it, write whatever you want. If you want to ask me questions, the same rules apply. Just don't be fucking lame. We'll hang out, have a good time here. Let's watch a movie. Get your snacks. What are you guys eating? Put your snacks in the chat.
The year is 2022. After surviving the long online winter of the pandemic, Super Smash Bros. Melee tournaments are back in full force at Genesis 8, the first true super major of the post-pandemic era. Fresh off a career-defining victory at Smash Summit 11 and a newly crowned #1 placement on the Melee Stats all-time.
So I think this one is, I watched the first couple minutes, so this is probably Mango Fizzwiggle, and then I wonder what the other ones are going to be. I don't want to cheat it. I don't want to cheat by scrubbing.
Top 100, Mango enters the tournament as the first seed, projected to win the entire event. But to claim victory, he'll need to run the gauntlet, navigating a bracket packed with the strongest players in the world. Before any of that can happen though, there's one small formality he needs to get through: open bracket pools. Mango sits down on stage to play as a winner's round of 128 match. It's still early, far from the top 8.
So I wonder, okay, so G8 was when I started working with Panda. I'll give you guys the true lore here. Fizzwiggle discusses historic win over Mango.
Hey guys, Ipangu.
I shot this. I shot this with the PG Stats staff. So I do wonder how much of this will be coverage from what we had, because I have hard drives upon hard drives of footage from this tournament.
Not even into the top 64, where the difficulty is typically expected to ramp up. A few Mango fans are scattered in the seats, casually watching in the hopes of seeing some flashy combos. But for the most part, nobody's really paying much attention. Why bother? Everyone knows how this is going to go. Looking ahead at the projected top 64 bracket, Mango is slated to play. Wait, his opponent just took the first stock. It's a Chic player named Fizzwiggle?
Does not work.
Apparently he's the best player in Colorado. Okay, interesting. Fizzwiggle is actually holding a solid lead, but it looks like Mango is starting to figure him out. Anyways, in round 1 of top 64, Mango will play. Wait, Fizzwiggle just took game 1.
I really like his graphic, like the bracket graphics too. That's something I've never really had the desire to create from scratch. So.
Round 1 of top 64, Mango will play. Wait, Fizzwiggle just took game 1. Okay, that's pretty impressive, but still, he has to win one more game to take the set, and game 2 goes exactly how we expect it to. Like a true top player, Mango is able to adapt, and he should clean it up from here. So, after KJH, Mango will need to face... Whoa. Why is this still so close? Mango's on his last stock? There's no way.
So close right now. Oh, gets the hard knockdown. And the forward air. He's off stage.
This was Chillin commentating too,
That's
right?
My goodness. That's it. Mango goes down 2-1 to Fizzwiggle.
Yo, Chillin W, by the way.
One of the greatest Melee players of all time, and the one projected to win the entire tournament, just got sent to the loser's bracket by a Sheik player most people have never heard of, named Fizzwiggle. What just happened?
Brad, I like this. I like this a lot. I'm eating jelly beans, by the way.
Perhaps what we just witnessed was a breakout performance, the legendary rise of Fizzwiggle, who after slaying the #1 seed would go on to win the tournament and become Melee's next god. But no, actually, after defeating Mango, Fizzwiggle would proceed to lose all of his remaining sets. Meanwhile, it was Mango who tore through the loser's bracket, defeating incredibly skilled players set after set, before finally being knocked out just shy of top 8. And while Fizz would go on to periodically claim the top spot in his home state of Colorado, he would never actually break into Melee's annual top 100 rankings, peaking instead at an honorable mention in 2019, a whole 3 years before Genesis 8 even happened. Meanwhile, Mango would maintain a solid spot in the top 10 globally.
Oh, I have a fun... Okay. One Arm Retro Gamer, Jmook coming out this year too. I firmly believe that my interaction with Jake helped him go on that run. And I'm gonna take my credit for that as much as I can. All jokes aside though, I actually was on the same flight as Jmook going to Genesis. We were flying in from New York together. And I had never met him in person at that moment. I think I talked about this before in the past. Yeah, I ended up talking with him for probably like 20-30 minutes before we boarded the flight, and I was like, yeah, I know who you are, like, you know, I think you're great, just have like literally never seen you come out to tournaments before, so it'd be cool to see you go on a run. And he was like, yeah, I'll try my best. And then he got second. Isn't that crazy? Also, shoutouts FlyQuest, right? Let's go.
For the next few years, even making it as high as number 3. However you choose to look at it, Mango was is the better player, both on that day and across time. Yet it was undeniable that such a legend of the game had still dropped a fair and honest set to an unranked player very few people knew about.
A lot. I really just like have not
Could it just be luck?
Heard a lot from him.
Randomness isn't completely absent from competitive Melee. Peach's turnip pull is a perfect example. Most of the time, she plucks an ordinary turnip, a simple projectile with predictable properties. But on rare occasions, she can pull something far more dangerous, like a Stitch Face, a turnip that deals extremely high damage and knockback. In another major upset in 2022, Zane...
Soundtrack is also really good, by the way. Like, very, very impressed with the selections here.
The player who would go on to rank #1 in the world that year was sent to the loser's bracket early by Peach player Wally at Super Smash Con. In that set, Wally would get unusually lucky with Peach's turnip pulls. In Game 2, they would pull 3 Stitch Faces in a row, an outcome with odds so low that they border on absurd. But even then, those lucky pulls were only a small part of the victory. Wally still had to outplay Zane for the majority of the 2-game set, winning enough neutral exchanges to even get the opportunity to pull those turnips in the first place. Poker is a competitive game with a much higher luck component than Melee. A single hand can produce wildly unpredictable results, but as more hands are played, variance evens out, and the better player is expected to rise to the top. It's why you see professional poker players winning tournaments and
Me, the real GOAT for content? No. There's so many people out there doing really cool stuff. That's why we're watching this.
Not random attendees who happen to just wander into the venue that day. These competitors are able to mitigate the luck factor by consistently making optimal decisions and winning over the long run. Now reduce the luck aspect to niche edge cases and make decision making and frame...
I'm sorry, what?
For the long run.
Was there a
now
bomb?
Reduce the luck aspect to...
Oh! This clip is so sick. What? That's hysterical. So it caused a Z drop, or it caused an item drop.
The niche edge.
What an insane kill.
Decision making and frame perfect execution the primary factor of success. Despite how fast it looks from the outside, a single stock in Melee is made up of dozens of tiny interactions, neutral exchanges that players are constantly fighting to win. And when the win condition is taking 4 entire stocks across 2 to 3 games, even a small gap in skill can compound rapidly. Watch a top level player face an average one, and the difference is immediately obvious. The movement is cleaner, the punish game is sharper, and the decisions come faster. And yet, despite all of that, even the best players are still mortal.
It's just it! Rap Monster taking it 3-1 over the #1 ranked player, over the 2-time Genesis champion.
In many traditional sports, access to high-level competition is heavily gatekept. LeBron James didn't just wake up one day and enter a basketball tournament. He was identified as a prospect, recruited, drafted, and carefully filtered through a highly regulated system before ever stepping onto an NBA court. And while it's possible that somewhere out there, someone you've never heard of could beat LeBron in a game of pickup basketball, the structure of professional sports makes it almost impossible for that person to ever get the...
I really like this a lot, and the reason that it's clicking with me so well is I literally have a video that's coming out in like the next 2 weeks that talks a lot about this. It's more from the perspective of win-lose streaks, though, than it is just like finding hidden bosses. But I think this is like very apt.
Chance to prove it. But competitive fighting games are different. True to their arcade roots, where anyone with a quarter could step up to the cabinet, fighting games like Melee are built around open bracket tournaments. Show up, pay your entry fee, and you too can go toe-to-toe with the best players in the world, maybe even walking away with the trophy if you have the skills to do it. This then begs the question, how do we know who the best player is on a...
So that's like a core part of the thesis for my video as well, of like traditional sports do not have the same infrastructure as open bracket tournaments where like you could just randomly be like playing against an NBA superstar, right? Where like Melee, it's so common to be able to do something like that, depending on how frequently top players go to their locals, which we're not here to open that dumbass drama, but yeah, it's crazy to think that like you could literally just sit down and round one into Zane or Cody or Hungrybox or, you know, like whoever the flavor of the month like breakout star is for the game, where that's just like not necessarily a thing at all in traditional sports.
On any given day. The most accurate approach would be a full round robin tournament, a format where everyone plays everyone else. In theory, that would give us the clearest picture of relative skill, but in practice, it'd be a logistical nightmare. With hundreds or even thousands of entrants, a format like that would be impossible to run. So instead, most major Melee tournaments rely on a double elimination bracket. The format is simple. Each player is assigned a seed, which directly determines their position in the bracket and the order of opponents they'll face, shaping their path through the tournament. From there, matches are played out, with competitors who suffer 2 losses being knocked out of the tournament. When one player remains, they are crowned the champion.
He has it this time, surely!
It's me!
Enough to do it!
That's me!
Insane knock me, your Supernova 2025 champion!
But for that system to be fair for players and entertaining for spectators, organizers need some way to approximate how strong each competitor is relative to the rest of the field.
Yep.
Otherwise, you could have a situation where the best players meet way too early in the bracket, skewing final placements and undermining the tournament's ability to showcase the best that it has to offer. Melee has no built-in score or ranking to measure how strong a player is. That's because skill isn't necessarily...
HomeDawg messaged in here a second ago. He said he's going to open source.
Has no built-in score or ranking to measure how strong a player is. That's because skill isn't necessarily something we can simply compute. Rather, it's something we observe. But over the years, there have been many attempts to quantify skill, and perhaps the most influential model comes from physicist and chess master Arpad Elo. Elo's core insight was simple. Skill is not deterministic, it's probabilistic. Rather than thinking of skill as a fixed number, it's more useful to think of it as a range of possible performances, and one way to visualize that range is with the famous bell curve. On the far right of the curve are performances where a player is operating at their absolute peak. Perfect execution, perfect decisions, the kind of play that borders on task level precision. On the far left are performances well below a player's norm. Misinputs, nerves, fatigue, bad matchups, or personal circumstances that prevent them from playing their best. But most of the time, a player performs somewhere in the middle.
Why is that thing actually fire? No, the graphics are genuinely really good. And this is like a huge critique that I have of new creators is building things that... This is something Fire the Pyro does really well, actually. It was like a lot of the stuff that they make, including here, it like looks pretty basic for the most part, but that's a good thing because you want to be able to, as a viewer, like I want to be able to discern what I'm looking at, right? Like if there's too much motion or if there's too much shit going on the screen, it makes no sense for me, and it's basically a wasted scene at that point because it's just like it also might cause someone to not want to watch the video because it's like, well, what am I really looking at? And it's like, this doesn't really make any sense to me, so I'm not really interested in what you have to say. And it makes you like, it makes the creator have to rely on their VO a lot more heavily. And it's just like, you can be like super explainer mode in VO, but you can like lose a lot of people if you don't have like simplistic graphics that accompany that. So yeah, I think it's really good.
Mass represents their average level of play on any given day.
We're not talking about Z-Jump. I truly do not care if people use it or not, but
The version of them we're most likely to see. When two players compete, we are essentially using each player's individual bell curve to compute the odds. You can use statistical theory to do this, but I'll spare you the math, because the takeaway is much simpler. It boils down to this: the better player should win. But anything is possible. Each year, thousands of entrants show up to major tournaments across the world to compete in Melee. Yet despite the large player base and open format, only a very small group of players have ever been capable of winning a major tournament. There have even been eras where the best players were so far ahead of the rest of the playing field that they were seen as operating on a different level entirely. From roughly
listen, Chocolate Lovin', I don't mean it in a rude way. It's just like, of all the things that Melee players can find themselves creating drama about, I just don't really think it needs to be that. So
2008 to 2015, 5 players stood above everyone else, a period now remembered as the Five Gods era. For years, they were widely considered the only realistic candidates to win tournaments when in attendance, as the rest of the player base simply couldn't keep up with them.
We'll probably do I'll probably have Jazara do a cut down of this and put it on the second channel, but it won't be for like at least a week or two. I want the views to go to homedawg. Like, I don't want the views to go towards my reaction to him. This is why, like, reaction content's a little bit iffy sometimes, and, like, I really want to make sure they're okay with it before I do something like that. Just because it's not really fair to the work that he put in for you guys to watch my video, you know, and, like, not have anything go towards him from that, so.
Melee in the modern
Hopefully
days
that
is
makes
arguably
sense.
even more prone to this kind of dominance. Players like Zayn and Cody Schwab routinely tower over tournament brackets, making even Melee's top talent look hopeless in defeating them. Perhaps like the force of gravity, it's just the math at work. But every now and then, something will happen that goes against the odds. And it's in that unlikely scenario where a lower seed manages to defeat a higher seed that we get an upset.
That's it! Swedish beats Armada 2-1.
Now, not all up.
One of the only times the GOAT Armada. Props for being an ethical reactor. I mean, I'm still learning this stuff from a streaming side as I go also, right? Like, so, you know, I'm bound to not do something correct as a streamer if I want to be a streamer. So I'm glad that you guys are also like reasonable about that stuff. My work is built on the work of others, you included, so it'd be selfish of me to not share it. Yeah, no, I get that. And that's like very based, honestly. It's just about making sure that you get the growth that you deserve from something like this. Because you put the work in, right? Like, I'm not really doing any work to watch this and appreciate what you've done.
Upsets are created equal.
Right.
At Apex 2015, PPMD
See you around
entered the
one-armed,
tournament seeded
retro
6th,
gamer.
but would go on to win the entire event. It was a surprising result, and PPMD defeating Armada and Leffen, players who were seated above him, was definitely considered an upset, but it wasn't unthinkable. PPMD was one of the 5 gods of Melee, and he had beaten both Armada and Leffen before. While he may have not been the favorite going in, it wasn't unimaginable to consider him as a contender. Of the 1,000 entrants, he was still seated as the 6th best after all. But on much rarer occasions, Melee experiences something far more extraordinary. Moments where the odds don't just fit.
Dude, Javi was so weird. Like, the way he played was so weird. That was like the talk of the town when Javi beat PP. And also, like, just the his controller grip was like such a crazy cultural phenomena for so long. I think Javi plays Ultimate, if I'm not mistaken, also, but I don't know, neither here nor there.
Rarer occasions, Melee experiences something far more extraordinary. Moments where the odds don't just feel low, they feel non-existent. Cases where a relatively unassuming player manages to defeat Melee's very best. And when these upsets happen, they don't just change the bracket. They reshape Melee's narratives and redefine the culture around the game. Sometimes, they inspire players to keep pushing forward, while other times, they philosophically alter how people view skill. But most importantly, they remind us that even in a top-heavy game ruled by skill, nothing is ever guaranteed.
Yeah, Javi still plays, I believe, but I think he also plays Ultimate. Like, I thought I saw an Ultimate clip from him at one point, but I'm not sure. Oh, my last Coke in the Twitch chat? Unreal. We gotta play Marvel, dude.
Saturday, November 15th.
We're talking about
2014.
FalcoMaster?
It's the local mail.
Wow, this is so sick. Okay.
Tournament in Edmonton, the capital of Alberta, Canada. The usual players show up, register, warm up. Everything starts out completely ordinary. That is, until a mysterious person enters the venue.
So
They're
funny.
wearing all black with a ski mask to conceal their identity.
This would never fly in 2020 in the Big 2-6, bro. Like an armed robber comes to your fucking local tournament. Are you kidding me? Hilarious bit. This is so insane that like this happened. And then what was it? Gilded Guy on YouTube or whatever made an entire animated series about it, or like all these like anime intros with FalcoMaster. That was so sick.
After approaching the tournament organizer,
Like,
they
how-
slightly motioned
this
for a
would never
pen
be
and
allowed.
wrote a single name on the registration sheet. FalcoMaster 3000. People are confused and anxious to see what exactly this mysterious figure is up to. The tournament begins, and FalcoMaster is queued up against a local Fox player. Picking Falco themselves, they proceed to decimate the Edmonton player, even taking opportunities to style on them.
Do you get force that? Are we gonna see a force doctor?
Dude, I completely forgot about the footage. Like, I just know that like the lore of FalcoMaster is so etched in history. That's so sick that you're talking about this.
Are we gonna see a force dock by the FalcoMaster?
After their victory, FalcoMaster simply turns to the stunned crowd and gives a simple thumbs up. They don't say a word, and they never do. Without uttering a sound for the entire duration of the tournament, FalcoMaster sweeps through their local talent. Set after set, FalcoMaster decimates each of the Edmonton players using a rotating cast of characters that allows them to showcase their skill and versatility. It's now Grand Finals. The entire Edmonton crowd watches as their
so
local
sick.
top player, Anjo, faces off against the masked stranger.
Oh, what a shine kill! Wow, what a power kill in the off mask! Oh, and it's choking. Oh, what a shine kill!
The cheap metal chairs, true grassroots. Hell yeah.
It's not gone. It's dead. 360!
And in the final moment, FalcoMaster closes it out with a perfectly placed up smash tipper. The crowd begins chanting, demanding the mask come off. They want
Dude,
to know who
if you're
just
talking
defeated
about
their
FalcoMaster, I hope you talk about like Kimba and what is it, Guy farting. That's so funny. That's basically just like Smurfs though, who like have created the narrative, but that's so sick.
entire scene. Instead, FalcoMaster refuses. They take their prize earnings and run off into the night. The next day, footage of the event is uploaded to YouTube on the Super Smash Bros. University channel. It spreads quickly, and across the Melee community, speculation explodes. Just who was FalcoMaster? Some players are proposed as candidates, but each working theory has holes. With no solidified answer in sight, the community starts to arrive at a different conclusion, one a bit more spiritual.
Some people think that he's the spirit of Melee. Some people think that he's the manifestation, or...
Did you do this interview or was this found footage? It looks kind of old, so I'm assuming the latter, but yeah, this is already really well put together, man. Like really well done.
the personification of FalcoMaster. Now, FalcoMaster for a day selected a single individual, but we don't really know, and I don't think anyone's gonna find out. We don't even know if we're ever gonna see him again.
Within Melee culture, the idea of a FalcoMaster comes from a random commentary exchange that devolved into a meme between legendary commentators Scar and Toph.
He's this ethereal being who just like, he doesn't exist, but he's also everyone. Basically, the idea is that you go to tournaments all the time, and like, you look at your bracket, and sometimes, like today, my bracket was literally Fox, Falco, Falco, Fox, Falco.
Yeah.
That was my bracket today. And so sometimes you want those kinds of pools, sometimes you just want all fast fallers and give me them. But you run the risk with the fast faller brackets that you're going to run into this being, FalcoMaster. And FalcoMaster just exists.
Yeah, it's cool that you found that clip, man. That's sick.
All the time, and it's just, you play against, you just enter a tournament set with this Falco who just goes by the name of like Ralph or Ron or something.
Shout out to both Ralph and Ron.
And like,
because these are real examples.
You don't really understand what's happening, but like, they're just doing basic standard Falco stuff, and you're losing. You can't navigate around the lasers. They hit you one time, they do 80% damage. So the point is that you never want to run into FalcoMaster.
The true identity of the player who attended the Edmonton local was never truly confirmed, but perhaps it was better that way, because with no singular face to put under the mask, FalcoMaster became the symbol for the spirit of an open bracket tournament, that even on your best day, you can never sleep on the competition, as there could be someone out there who you've never heard of that just happens to be playing out of their mind. The title is incredibly fitting because the idea is perhaps no better exemplified by Melee's signature glass cannon character, Falco. Sporting the perfect combo weight and a much shorter recovery compared to his space animal counterpart, Fox, Falco is widely thought of as one of the most easy to gimp and vulnerable characters in the game when in disadvantaged state. But ask any Melee player, and they'll tell you that there's nothing scarier than playing a Falco who's on. When everything is working, Falco becomes one of the most oppressive characters in the game, making you feel like you've completely lost control of your character and shutting down your movement completely. Over the years...
Back when Bobby actually knew most of the players, hell yeah. I really like this as well. And I think there was a comment here. I'm not going to scroll because it's going to mess up my screen cap, but the explanations are very baseline to people who don't follow Melee, which is something I actually was not really good at all. Because I like getting into really like nitty-gritty stuff and being like super technical and doing explainers, but it's very approachable. I think this is really good. And then it gets like a little more sweaty as things go on. It's well put together.
Many players would attempt to don the title of FalcoMaster. Some even went as far as recreating the original getup from the Edmonton local. But the true spirit of FalcoMaster would lie dormant for years, waiting for the moment when Melee needed them most.
Oh my God! PVMC in the losers bracket! A big back air! Rest! Rest! It's over!
In modern Melee, Hungrybox stands as the last remaining member of the Five Gods still actively competing in tournaments. Today, he's widely seen as a pillar of the community, maintaining a dedicated following of fans who openly cheer for him.
Like
but it wasn't always like that. But there was a time where Hungrybox was one of Melee's biggest antagonists.
And Hungrybox closes it out.
I was there. Can we find me? I filmed this somewhere. This was a very awkward crowd moment. It was like when Hbox was winning everything. I'm sure he's gonna talk about this, but like people were just so mean to Juan, man. It was so bad.
He is your big house champion.
No pop off this time. He's been sitting in that chair
for
game after game after game
for so long. You can sit there.
Also, poor Plup, by the way, who like finds his way into Grands on these crazy runs and then never quite makes it. Dude is so good at video games. Why was I booing? I was not booing, bro. I don't got hate in my heart like that.
During his rise to prominence in the early Five Gods era, Hungrybox was typically viewed as the weakest of the five, treated less like a threat and more like a chump check by his fellow gods.
Actually, Hbox is he's the giver of free Evos. He gave me a free Evo, gave Armado a free Evo.
Yep.
Thank you, Hbox, for giving us free Evos. I appreciate it.
One day, you'll give me a free Evo too.
He'll get second at every Evo for the rest of his life, and then you gotta thank him for giving you a free Evo.
Part of the lack of respect was due to the character he piloted, Jigglypuff, who is perhaps one of the most fascinating characters in Melee. On the surface, Jigglypuff seems weak. Her ground game is slow, her moves seem unassuming, and her lightweight and floaty fall speed make her incredibly easy to KO. But the minute Jigglypuff leaves the ground, she becomes a menacing threat. With 5 jumps, incredibly disjointed aerials, and the most versatile aerial mobility in Melee, Jigglypuff becomes a moving wall with the perfect toolkit to control space and dictate the pace of the game. And with no other character truly able to contest Puff's air game, her advantage only grows stronger off stage. Depending on the matchup and playstyle, Jigglypuff can either get in close and pressure the opponent with tightly spaced hitboxes, or disengage and force the opponent to come towards the Puff. Although the best Jigglypuff players are generally able to alternate between both playstyles, there are many players who argue that the optimal way to play Jigglypuff is through not.
Oh shit. I'm so sorry. JC from Johto, if you're still in the chat. I need to find someone who does streams. Because my notifications don't make sounds. And I didn't see that you gifted 5. So I thank you, appreciate that. Also, I think I got, like, someone subbed or super chatted or did something. I don't know.
On interactivity and defense, slowing the pace of the game entirely. Now, pair one of Melee's most defensive characters with Hungrybox, a player with unmatched patience and stamina, and what you get is a playstyle that's not only oppressive,
Wait, did we
but
get
for
a
a
raid?
time...
And I didn't even know? Are you kidding? Axe? Are you still in here? I completely missed all of this. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Holy shit. I didn't have the Twitch dashboard open. I really need someone to help me with my stream. Bad. Dude, thanks for the raid, Axe. Thanks so much.
Dominated the game. It took Hungrybox time and plenty of losses to solidify his game plan, but once he did, Hungrybox would go on a reign of terror. To beat Hungrybox, you'd need to outlast him in a battle of attrition while navigating around his signature clutch factor, in do-or-die situations where Jigglypuff falls behind and needs to make something happen. She possesses perhaps the single greatest comeback mechanic in Melee.
Nobody gets hit. He gets that could be it.
By pressing down and B, Puff falls
Frenchie,
asleep,
thanks for the follow.
leaving herself completely vulnerable for several seconds. But if the tiny
On
hitbox
Twitch.
at the very start of the move connects, the opponent is instantly...
I don't argue with that at all, Martin Payne. I am not an average to mediocre. I'm a bad streamer. I'm a bad streamer through and through. So funny watching you stream. It reminds me of when my mom streams. Yeah, like finding technology for the first time. Holy shit, dude. I mean, you're not wrong, all right?
instantly blown up, often resulting in a one-hit KO. The move is extremely risky when thrown out recklessly, but in the hands of a skilled Jigglypuff player, it can be comboed into, turning that risk into a guaranteed stock. By 2016, Hungrybox had surpassed most of the gods and become a regular contender for best in the world, trailing only Armada. Armada would hold on to the top spot for another year, but by the end of 2017, Hungrybox would finally overtake him, cementing himself as the best Melee player in the world. It was an incredible
Dog Bone,
achievement, but
CWB,
not
thanks
everyone
for
was
the follow.
happy about it, because to a portion of the community, Hungrybox and Jigglypuff represented something that they found deeply uncomfortable about the game of Melee. To some, the idea of a player taking one of Melee's most offensive characters and piloting them to the top was blasphemous. Melee is a game that should reward the player with an aggressive and execution-heavy playstyle, like 20XX foretold, not a floaty character built around defense. Now layer in that Hungrybox's playstyle wasn't just effective, but also notoriously frustrating to go up against. What you have is a perfect recipe to construct a villain. For Hungrybox's detractors, the big question going into each tournament wouldn't be who can win, but would instead be who could beat Hungrybox and save the tournament. For an ordinary player, the surmounting pressure to be toppled from the peak would be incredibly straining on the mental. Add on to that a chunk of the community hates your guts, and their pressure spikes, but Hungrybox embraced his role as an antagonistic force.
I'm pretty fed up with the bullshit. So I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do. I'll play this game for 20 more years, if that's what it takes to be the best player in the world.
Dude, he
Hear
wasn't
me all
wrong.
you want. Please.
The one play.
I mean, honestly, like, they really gave him a bad run of it. Like, it was crazy how much shit he got. And this was, like, around when I started, like, working events and stuff, too. And I could just see it in crowd. Like, even at that Big House one, like, the crowd just goes so mild when he would win. It was, like, it's just crazy. And, like, I guess you could even argue that would be, like, antithetical to what Melee's about also. So it's like there's two things that are the antithesis of what Melee really represents, but, you know, whatever.
Player who could consistently contend.
The crab was out of control. Like, that's actually so fucking crazy that someone, like, thought that that was something that they were gonna do that was gonna be, like, hilarious. Like, you're such a loser, bro. Like, whoever did that, that's insane. Yeah, Summit 5 won. Summit 7, he was so down. I mean, I like, people still talk about the WAF interview where Hbox was like, yo, you ever felt like you've had everything you ever wanted? Like, Brandon just did not know how to answer him. He was just like, I don't know, man.
And with Hungrybox,
it just sucks. Like, just such a, like, that's like the really ugly side of how, like, communities can treat people, which, you know, is sad.
Armada was keeping it very competitive for the first half of 2018, but halfway through the year, Armada would deliver news that would shock the Melee scene. He would announce a retirement from Melee altogether, citing that he no longer felt the motivation needed to continually fight for the top spot.
I mean, Mr. Devil Rays, if the person who threw that crab did it with the intent of making Hbox like a more liked community member, 5-dimensional chess. But I have to imagine he did it because he probably felt some sort of like animosity towards this person for whatever reason, and that's super uber cringe. But
change from something I'm like incredibly excited about and this is what I want to do, looking forward to each tournament, until like basically feeling sick and not want to do it at all, then I feel like it's gone way too far, way too long.
With Hungrybox's greatest challenger now gone, it was up to the rest of the field to figure out a way to defeat him. And although there were a few top players capable of doing so, one by one, their ability to challenge Hungrybox was slowly fading. Mewtwo King would stop competing in Melee. Their ability to challenge Hungrybox was slowly fading. Mewtwo King would stop competing in Melee, focus more on streaming. Mango was on a downswing, unable to close out a set against the same player he once called free. Plup would also
plug my other content at every opportunity. No, I'm not. That's just the answer.
Announce a break from competing in early 2019, specifically citing burnout from constantly having to go against Hungrybox and Jigglypuff, and perhaps Hungrybox's biggest rival, Leffen, began to devolve into Melee doomerism. In our now infamous 2018 tier list, Leffen ranked Jigglypuff above Fox entirely, but more telling than the placement itself was an addition.
Listen, Leffen is a good fighting game player, but to make a ranking like that because you're so mad at Hungrybox is so funny. Like, that's so funny. Ryan Jones, thanks for the Manta Sleep discount. Hell yeah. No, I have another video with Manta Sleep coming up soon, but they're great. They're great. I'm glad you guys like them also, because I genuinely do like their products. That's my plug. There you go. Apparently the dude just wanted to throw it onto the stage. Is that real? I mean, either way, like, what the fuck are you doing with a crab?
Metric that he included, character difficulty.
Salt was
Jigglypuff scored the lowest on the list. A not so subtle dig at Hungrybox, as the implication was clear. Hungrybox wasn't just winning, he was being carried by his character, and by choosing to play the easiest, most offensive character, he was also killing the hype of Melee and dooming its future.
It is a reality, right? That, like, if all I wanted to do was just win, you know, maybe if Melee, the prize pots were so insanely huge, right, that I could just win one tournament and then forever be set for life, like Dota. Yeah, I would probably pick Puff. You know what? I'll play the most boring character for that much money. I don't want to do that. I don't think playing Puff and killing the game that brought me so much, which I do legitimately think it would.
The discourse around Hungrybox and Jigglypuff began to boil, with players arguing back and forth if Hungrybox's playstyle was fair game or actively hurting the community. And although most competitors were able to leave their feelings at the setup, for others, the lines between Hungrybox the player and Hungrybox the person began to blur.
So obviously I have had, you know, an interesting, not cordial relationship with Hungrybox. I have been pretty upfront about the fact that I hate him as a person.
In the most infamous incident, a spectator crossed that line entirely and resorted to violence, hurling a crab at Hungrybox after he defeated Mango at Pound 2019.
Who the fuck threw this? Who threw this at me? Fuck off, dude. Fuck you. Why would you throw something? Right in my fucking face.
that's honestly just so sad. like what a shitty. Yeah, that really sucks. Yo, can't believe this is the first time I'm seeing you on the Melee stream page. I don't stream often, but welcome, SSBM Corey. I'm restreaming on YouTube as well. But welcome, appreciate it a lot.
Perhaps in hindsight, whether Jigglypuff was truly killing Melee is a question that would be answered very differently today. But in 2019, one thing was undeniable. The discourse around Jigglypuff was devolving into chaos, and pessimism had taken hold. Melee needed a reminder of its competitive spirit. It needed proof that no mountain was truly unclimbable. And it was in this moment the spirit of Melee awakened. Not in the form of a top player, but a dark knight. Having only started attending tournaments in 2014, Albert was relatively new to the scene.
Albert low tier city 7 set? This is a deep cut, bro.
His tournament attendance was mainly confined to his home region of Central Texas, and he would almost never venture out to major tournaments outside his home state. To the greater Melee community, Albert was invisible. Just another Falco player to add to the infinite list of them. But for those in the know, Albert was anything but an ordinary Falco. In his short time playing, he was consistently pushing top players in his local scene to the limit and slowly climbing the Austin ranks. But to go head to head with the greatest player in the world, that's a completely different feat. Low Tier City 7, a major tournament held in Arlington, Texas. In addition to the local Texas players, multiple top players.
Or on YouTube. I'm assuming YouTube. Thank you. Oh, we're almost at 200K, guys. This is crazy. By the way, I think we're at, what are we at, like 180, 170 about? Yeah, we're about to hit 170. That's so crazy, dude. Hey, by the way, this is my other plug. I don't know. You can do Twitch memberships or YouTube memberships. If you have an available one, feel free to do it. But no pressure at all. I don't really stream, so I'm not good at this. I do it in videos instead. Young Crew, I'm not saying that the crab was a good or a bad thing. I'm saying that the fact that someone like in any sort of like rational sense was like, I'm gonna bring like a living creature into this like building, and I'm gonna like, whether the intention was to throw it on the stage or throw it at a person, that's still fucking crazy. Like, that's actually insane, right? It's not about like whether or not it was a good thing for Hungrybox's PR or not. Like, it's great that it turned out that he garnered a lot of sympathy as a result from it, because he probably should have a while before that, because he was getting a lot of shit from random people for no reason. And the fact that it took throwing like a crustacean onto a stage and it happened to hit him, whether again intentional or not, like that also is just pretty insane to me too. Yeah, 168K. We're close, dude. I'm throwing a party at 250. You guys are all invited.
Players from outside have come to try and take the home title, including Hungrybox, who was seeded first and projected to win the entire event. It's a winner's round 2 of the top 64 bracket. Hungrybox is...
I'm pretty sure it was alive. And then HBox spiked the shit out of it, which was beast mode. Throwing anything as a grown-ass man at another man is kind of fucked up. But the fact that it was a crab, like, yeah, sure, Maryland, fucking Old Bay, whatever. I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure it was alive. It doesn't matter, though. It really doesn't matter if it was alive or dead. It has no bearing on how insane that situation is.
Is yet to drop even a single game. By all metrics, it's looking like an easy sweep into top 8. But on the other side of the bracket was an unassuming Falco player who had unexpectedly fought their way into a match against Hungrybox. To the average onlooker, the odds were non-existent. If Melee's best players struggled to beat Hungrybox, then Albert's chances were effectively zero. Expecting a wash, the two are directed to play off-stream, away from the spotlight. And on a random side setup away from the crowd, the set begins.
Let's go.
There's no existing footage of the first 4 games. All that is known from the few players there to witness the set in person is that Albert managed to take Hungrybox all the way to Game 5. Only that final game was captured, filmed on a shaky phone by a Texas spectator who went live partway through the match.
Yeah, you know what? You're right, actually. We've turned the corner. We've swung the pendulum back towards Hungrybox hate because he inadvertently killed that crab.
The footage is rough and the camera shakes, sometimes even panning away from the gameplay, but the spectators huddled around the TV are too locked into care. Word on the floor has spread. Albert had taken Hungrybox to Game 5, and you can feel the intensity coming from the growing crowd. For most of the game, Hungrybox is holding a slight lead. Albert trolls behind, but never panics. There's a few close calls, but Albert is keeping it competitive. He's utilizing lasers to stop Hungrybox from simply stalling him out, and then going in with aerials and intense shield pressure when he sees an opening. But a Puff-favored trade leaves Albert on his final stock, while Hungrybox still has 2. Most players in this exact situation fall apart here. The opportunity for greatness is right within reach, but without experience, there's just not enough grit to take it all the way. By all means, this is where the better player should win. But Albert doesn't flinch.
I think if I were to offer any like visual constructive criticism I can give, I think it would have been cool to go back to the parabolas of the bell curves and like the overlap that you had shown earlier, and be able to reference like, because a lot of what you were describing with the scientific study was that the idea of the better player winning, and you show the bell curves, and like the area underneath the bell curve is just a lot larger, or I guess like a lot more slanted towards the right for the better player. But like being able to reference that again, and maybe you do this later. If you do, that's sick. But being able to reference that again and show that like cross between those two. If I can go back and find it, I will. I just think that would be a pretty neat, yeah, like this, like referencing this area underneath both curves and like being able to show that like player A can beat player B. That'd be like a pretty neat callback to me.
At game 5, only that part of the gameplay, but the spectator had taken for most of the game. There's a few close calls, but out and then going in with aerials and intense shield pressure when he sees an opening. But a Puff-favored trade leaves Albert on his final stock, while Hungrybox still has 2. Most players in this exact better player should win, but Albert doesn't flinch.
Yeah, like that I feel like would be a really cool callback. But like keeping it on the footage is also nice too.
Down on his final stock, something possesses Albert, and it's in this final moment with everything on his final stock, something possesses Albert, and it's in this final moment with everything on the line where we finally.
Also, yeah, like I know you're in the chat, so like thanks for coming back and forth with me on it too. Like this is like something like that is just a visual or like a direction that I probably would have taken it. It's not like, you know, an absolute by any means. Like the whole beauty of doing stuff like this, and I'm sure you've experienced this doing videos and kind of like learning about the joy of like creating like that, is that you can do it however the hell you want, and that's what makes it fun, right? But that's just something that I thought would be cool.
Finally see the long-awaited return of FalcoMaster. The crowd erupts into a frenzy and swarms Albert, while Hungrybox quietly slips away in defeat.
That was a best of 5 set too.
Word spreads instantly. A relatively unknown Falco player had just slain the Puff Dragon. Ironically, Hungrybox would go on to win the tournament from the loser's bracket. He would even defeat Albert in a rematch, ending Albert's run at a respectable 5th place. Because remember, in the long run, the better player will win. But what Albert did was bigger than a placement. At the height of
big dog,
ending Albert's run at a respectable 5th place. Because remember, in the long run, the better player will win. But what Albert did was bigger than a placement. At the height of Doomerism, amid claims that Jigglypuff was killing Melee, an unknown player stepped forward and proved that even the most oppressive playstyle could still be overcome. Albert inspired a generation not to give up, but to push forward. And while Hungrybox would still finish the year of 2019 as the #1 player, the landscape of Melee would begin to drastically change in the 2020s. With the release of Slippy making Melee more accessible than ever, there was a rapid increase in both the skill floor and the skill ceiling. And when in-person tournaments returned in 2021, Hungrybox would enter the modern era of Melee as the most vulnerable he had ever been since the early days of his career. Melee's new rising cast of top talent began overtaking him for the top spot in Melee, and for the first time in ages, Hungrybox began to drop sets to the wider player base, who were beginning to dissect and adapt to his defensive playstyle. Hungrybox was still dangerous and could never be counted out, but he was far from untouchable. Yet, while other players of his time began to step away from the scene amidst the growing competition, Hungrybox doubled down on
Yo, we got Porky in the chat? Goat? Yo, those who are still paying attention, one's in the chat for Goat Porky, who's doing all the thumbnails on my channel.
Melee, and continued to push even further, both on and off the setup. With his transition from an unstoppable god to a bit of an underdog himself, the wider Melee community finally began to appreciate Hbox's hunger to continue forward, in spite of Melee being harder than ever.
Man, the water being all over the floor here is so iconic. It was so emotional, but then it's like, damn, he pissed himself. That's crazy.
Appreciate Hbox's hunger to continue forward, in spite of Melee being harder than ever. Through content creation, tournament organization, and sponsorship-driven prize pools, in a strange twist of fate, the player once accused of killing Melee is now one of its strongest pillars. These days, much of the past hate towards Hungrybox is seen as excessive in hindsight. Perhaps like a forest regrowing after a fire, Melee simply needed a force to restore it to equilibrium. A simple reminder to us all that no matter how impossible things may seem, show up to the setup with enough skill, and anything can happen.
FalcoMaster, what do you have to say about your recent victory? Excellent.
Mario Party is a game designed for fun and chaos. Its minigames are simple, accessible, and built with an anyone-can-win philosophy in mind. A highly skilled player
It can't be about Zump, dude. Controversial mechanic.
Can dominate nearly every minigame and still lose due to bad luck at the very end. Such an outcome isn't that uncommon, and there's a reason you don't see high-stakes Mario Party tournaments. It's a game for casual players to enjoy when they're looking for light fun, not to consistently reward skill. Out of the box, Super Smash Bros. Melee isn't all that different. Items and wacky stages introduce a ton of randomness and variance that can result in unexpected outcomes. Sakurai and HAL Laboratories had the casual player top of mind when designing Melee, but with the foresight that some individuals may prefer some mechanics over others, the developers introduced customization options into the game. Think items are unfair?
0.9? Is this about 0.9?
Go ahead and turn them off. Find a certain stage frustrating to play on? There's plenty others to choose from. Over the years, the Melee community has taken advantage of these customization options, perhaps way more than Sakurai would have anticipated. Competitive players have spent time carefully tuning the game's rule set to minimize the elements of Melee that they feel contradicts the values of a skill-based game. Items are disabled, the stage list is trimmed to a small pool of relatively neutral stages, and there's a strict 4-stock setup with an 8-minute timer. But not everything is as simple as a menu toggle. Melee was developed...
Dude, legalized Pokefloats, that's real as fuck, actually. Someone gift One-Arm Retro Gamer a Twitch sub, even though he's chatting on YouTube.
In just 13 months. An astonishing feat given its polish. Play the game casually, and you might never notice anything unusual, but when pushed to its competitive limits, certain quirks begin to surface. No game engine is ever perfect, and with such a rushed development cycle, the quirks begin to surface. No game engine is ever...
I saw a comment about this. This is crazy.
Perfect.
Hang on. Just dies?
Game engine is ever perfect, and with such a rushed development cycle, there were bound to be some overlooked oddities. Something as fundamental to competitive Melee like wave dashing is technically an exploit of the game's physics system. Air dodging into the ground to create a sliding effect was never explicitly designed as a core movement mechanic, and yet, it's a mechanic that grants the player incredible movement options, making Melee much more dynamic and expressive. By all means, it's a net positive. However, not every unintended mechanic is viewed so favorably. Peach's side B, known as the Peach Bomber, is an offensive attack that can be used to bounce into an opponent. With an incredibly telegraphed animation and long-lasting end lag, it's generally seen as a bad move, but it has a secondary purpose. If done correctly, the move can be used to repeatedly bounce on and off a wall, gaining a slight vertical height each time. So, in theory, a strategy that a Peach player could employ would be to take a slight percent lead, retreat to a position that the opponent's character cannot contest, and then simply wait out the clock until the timer hits 0. This technique is known as stalling. For certain players, perhaps watching their opponents struggle to interact for 8 minutes is incredibly satisfying, but for a majority of the player base, many would argue that this goes against the spirit of competition. Melee is a game that should reward technical ability, promote player interaction, and of course, be fun to play and watch. Stalling breaks these principles, as it's rewarding a player's refusal to interact with the opponent.
Having the Peach audio underneath this description is demonic. This is so unreal.
Even the game designers anticipate as it's rewarding a player's refusal to interact with the opponent. Even the game designers anticipated this problem. If time runs out and stocks are tied, the game will enter sudden death, a high percent mode where one hit ends the game. And if players still refuse to engage, bombs begin raining from the sky until someone is eliminated. This solution will force an outcome, but many in the competitive community still see this for what it is, a winner selected by random chance. As such, sudden death mode is not used in competitive play. In scenarios like this, where the game engine can't adequately resolve a competitive issue, is where tournament organizers step in. In order to compete in a tournament, players agree to external rules, restrictions that go beyond what the game itself can enforce. Just as you can't launch your controller at an opponent, you can't use Peach's bomber to stall indefinitely.
I've never seen that.
These rules are not just etiquette. If you choose to break them, you will be disqualified from the tournament, and potentially even face social backlash for attempting to win in a way that the community deems degenerate. But this is where things become a bit complicated. What counts as a degenerate strategy, and what counts as valid competitive play? Sometimes, these calls are obvious. There's few people that will defend a strategy like stalling, but other times, the distinction is not so clear, and often, it isn't until a single, high-profile moment forces the issue that the community is compelled to decide.
I love this clip. Oh no! Is this chewed at Leffen? Or just wobbling montage number, you know, whatever. Jason got so sad. This is the Guitar Hero one? When the Guitar Hero frets come on the screen too.
Wobbling may perhaps be the most contested mechanic in the history of Melee. It's incredibly polarizing, with portions of the community seeing it as completely against the principles of Melee, while others staunchly defending its inclusion in the game. But in order to understand wobbling, we first need to understand why such a strange mechanic even exists in the first place. A common archetype in competitive fighting games is known as the puppet character. This type of fighter typically involves the player commandeering two characters at once. Typically, there's one main character and a secondary character that acts as a puppet of the first, hence the name. The exact implementation varies from game to game, but one thing is consistent. Having two controllable fighters creates unusual techniques and strategies that the rest of the cast don't have access to. Melee's take on the puppet archetype comes in the form of the Ice Climbers. The player directly controls the lead climber, often referred to as Popo or Sopo when alone, while the second climber, typically referred to as Nana, has varying behavior depending on the state of the climbers. When the
my commentary grievance is I very intentionally tried to call Nana backup climber when like the color palette was such that Nana was the front climber. And this was another moment where people on Reddit or whatever were like, oh, it's so cringe that you do that. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking? It made me so mad. Like, the most random critiques that I've gotten as a caster are truly unbelievable. I should do a stream on that where I just talk about the craziest shit people have ever said to me as a caster in this community, but neither here nor there. I just wanted to share that with you guys.
When the two are together, the second climber will mirror the inputs of the first with a slight delay. This effectively allows the player to control two characters in sync. When paired together, the climbers are powerful. They have strong ground movement, can rack up damage incredibly quickly, and hit hard. Having a partner nearby also makes them difficult to grab or combo, since the second climber can break strings by striking the opponent. But when separated, everything changes.
Oh no! Oh my god, is that it? Oh my god, he has to mash more! Mash more! Nana, do something! Nana, do something! Please!
If the secondary climber is not in sync with the main climber, they become AI controlled. While there's nuance to how the AI behaves, the short version is this. Alone, the secondary climber is highly exploitable. It struggles with basic defensive and recovery options, making it incredibly easy to KO. Losing the secondary climber does not cost a stock. a stock is only dependent on the health of the lead climber, but without their partner, Sopo loses access to the most threatening aspects of the character's toolkit and is dramatically weaker, often being compared to a low-tier character. So, the Ice Climber's game plan is clear: stay together and protect your partner. Alone, the climbers are weak, but as a duo, they unlock some of the most unique techniques in the game. And this is where we meet wobbling. It all stems from how the grab mechanic works in Melee. When a player lands a grab, both characters enter a unique state. The offensive player, the one who secured the grab, has two primary options. They can either press...
homedawg, you did a good job at preempting it by saying, like, most people call this Sopo, and most people call this Nana. It's just... but that's just not... I don't know if Sakurai has said that, but if so, then I will take it as gospel. But that's just not what it is. Like, the different color palette, like, you can see that the climber changes, whoever is in the front, so...
Press a direction to throw the opponent, or they can press the A
Sakurai
button to perform a pummel. Meanwhile, the player being grabbed is stuck in grab hit stun, and is tasked with mashing inputs in an attempt to break free. The higher the percent, the more inputs are required to escape. One key part of this minigame is that when the pummel animation actually connects and the hitbox lands, the grabbed player cannot escape. The only window to mash out is in the gap between pummel hits. This is where the exploit begins. If attacks are delivered fast...
There actually is a little bit more that goes into that too, but yeah, it would be far too granular to explain all that stuff. So there are windows where every character has a varying frame advantage, basically, where after a pummel you cannot escape a grab, and you can or at least guarantee a throw, but that's not really relevant to this section, so yeah, not really worth going into.
Faster than a player can physically mash out within that window, the defender can be trapped indefinitely in the grab state.
Dude, look at
For
Taj's
example,
outfit.
if one player grabs an opponent and the second player repeatedly hits the grabbed character with Pikachu's rapid jab, the defender cannot escape. The required mash inputs simply cannot be physically completed by a human before the next hit connects. The result is an infinite. The grabbed player remains stuck in grab hit stun until they are either released or launched away. Under normal circumstances, this isn't a major problem. Melee is primarily played as a 1v1 game. And
Nana's struggle to break the ice ceiling. That's insane.
Developers intentionally designed pummel animations to be relatively slow. That means in standard play, the mash window between pummels is quite wide and more than enough for a defender to reasonably escape. Without a teammate applying additional rapid hits, this quirk in the grab system cannot be exploited. But this comes with one very important exception that the game designers didn't anticipate. Ice climbers can perform a mechanic known as desync. This technique takes advantage of the slight delay between the two climbers, and it allows them to perform different actions while still being controlled by the same player. If the ice climber duo lands a grab and then are desynced, the lead climber can hold the grab and pummel, while the partner climber performs a separate attack, such as a tilt. Each hit from the moves resets the grab hit stun, and if the climbers perform the correct rhythm of alternating hits, the window for the opponent to mash out becomes too small to break free. Said differently, this creates a true infinite, a guaranteed lost stock from a single grab. This technique would come to be known as wobbling, and it has been incredibly controversial since its discovery in the early days of competition.
A lot of people hate this, but hey.
Because Melee is a grassroots scene with no formal governing body, the legality of wobbling varied from tournament to tournament in the early days. Although each organizer had to make their own call, the majority saw the technique as a bannable offense. That was at least until EVO 2013. At the time, EVO was the largest fighting game tournament in the world, and for Melee, it was a defining moment. The event helped reintroduce the game as a legitimate esport to a wider gaming audience.
Right now, he read that roll!
Within the FGC, infinite combos aren't always as controversial, and in a game like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they arguably define how the game is played. Part of the fun is being able to trap your opponent and execute an inescapable sequence that leaves them with no choice but to pray you'll mess up. If you find yourself trapped in one, well, you shouldn't have been caught in the first place. The burden is on the defender to avoid that situation entirely. With EVO being a primarily fighting game tournament, the organizers chose to make wobbling legal in Melee's rule set. So if the EVO tournament organizers saw no problem with an infinite being utilized in competitive Melee, why might parts of the Melee community feel different? While Melee is famous for its explosive combo game, an equally important and often overlooked aspect of the game is its defensive counterplay. Due to the percent-based knockback system of the game, most interactions are situational, requiring the player to stay on their toes and adapt to various positions that they can find themselves in. And when placed in disadvantage, melee characters are rarely helpless.
The
game is filled with techniques that allow a player to fight their way out of a combo. Good melee players don't just know how to extend combos, they know how to escape them too. But with an infinite like wobbling, defensive tactics are useless. Once you've been caught in the wobble, it becomes a pure execution test for the Ice Climbers player. There's no technique, stage, or counterplay that can get you out of the wobble. In comparison to pulling off infinite combos in a game like Marvel, wobbling is relatively easy. Once set up, it simply requires pushing the A button in a specific rhythm around 100 beats per minute. This is more than doable for a human and can be learned in a short amount of time with high execution consistency. So when wobbling was legal at EVO, how did things play out? Ice Climber player Wobbles, who the technique is coined after, would incorporate wobbling into his play and make it all the way to Grand Finals, defeating several of the game's top players along the way, but he would ultimately finish second after he was defeated by Mango in a bracket reset.
And Wobbles is gonna go down.
The dock
3-1 Mango.
I think
despite Wobbling's power, Mango was able to overcome it by repeat
2022 getting like 6-figure viewership also for live. I could be wrong though.
Repeatedly separating the climbers and avoiding getting grabbed altogether, because even with an incredibly oppressive mechanic like wobbling, ice climbers are far from unbeatable. In fact, they occupy one of the strangest positions in Melee's metagame. Look at any Melee tier list and Ices are not at the top. The duo is considered viable, but far from dominant. Many of Melee's top tier characters possess tools that are incredibly efficient at separating the duo and exploiting the secondary climber's AI. The challenge of ice climbers isn't performing the wobble, it's keeping your partner alive long enough to land the grab and do it in the first place. As a result, ice climbers are considered unfavorable against much of the relevant cast, with certain players going as far as labeling specific matchups as nearly unwinnable. Wobble's second place finish at EVO was historic, but it arguably remains the highest placement an Ice Climbers player has ever achieved at a super major, and to this day, no Ice Climbers player has won one. With Ice Climbers widely considered a flawed character, and the largest fighting game tournament in the world labeling wobbling as legitimate, other major tournaments would follow suit, a decision that would carry significant downstream effects. Once legalized, wobbling quickly became the central pillar of the Ice Climbers game plan. For many Icy mains, it wasn't just an option, it fundamentally defined how
Axe losing to Pudgy Panda, man. Changed a lot.
The character was meant to be played. The objective? Get a grab.
I think it's pretty wild how long it took for wobbling to be banned, just based on the fact that so many people in Smash were so like vehemently against it. But I think it was tricky, like to this video's point, where it was like it was kind of divided, right? Like the implication that so many Ice Climbers players would just kind of like stop playing, and a lot of them did, made it a little bit tricky.
And if playing against the Ice Climbers, don't get grabbed. When in the heat of a nerve-wracking tournament environment, avoiding a grab is easier said than done. And once you've been caught, skill becomes irrelevant. Whether you are the best player in the world or have never touched a GameCube controller, the outcome is the same. Watch the cutscene of your character getting pummeled. With such a punishing option in the toolkit, the numerous micro decisions that are usually necessary to take a stock all of a sudden become much smaller.
Most Ice Climber players, I don't want to like name names or anything, but like a lot of them, they pretty much like mastered a certain aspect of the game, which is like grabbing, or like one basic setup in a grab, like blizzard grab, or just tricks to negate grabs, and then you can kill people with 0. If you master that, you can upset players more often because of like smaller sample sizes of fighting. Like kind of like how in Smash 4 there's a sample size of like 2 stocks, and in Melee there's a sample size of 4 stocks. The smaller the sample size, the easier it is.
A lot of people just wanted to reduce what got banned, period. Think about the stage list, even items. Melee had a history of prove it. Yeah, I could see that, right? I mean, in fairness, it also is just hard to, like, prove it is kind of the way that you get it. Like, you have to do reps to be able to show that it is worth banning, right? So, like, did people suffer as a result from that? Or, like, were a bunch of upsets that probably shouldn't have happened end up happening because of that? Yeah. And then, like, that's the proof that you need. I get it.
Like, cause an upset because there's less exchanges. That's taken a step further when you have wobbling, because you could literally win a turn match with 4 exchanges in some situations.
Perhaps such a playstyle wasn't inherently reshaping the tier list, but it was notorious for evoking emotional responses from frustrated players. To critics, Wobbling was antithetical to how Melee should be played, with some even going as far to protest mid-set. But for the majority of the player base, Ice Climbers were still seen as flawed enough such that wobbling wasn't a huge issue, and the debate would go on to be relatively silent for some years. That is, until around 2018. Around this era, a notable surge of Ice Climbers players began to emerge, each employing strategies around wobbling to make deep bracket runs and top player upsets. Wobbling became a more and more common staple of competitive play, and the discourse around it would re-emerge in full force. On one side of the aisle were players like Chudat, who saw wobbling as a vital tool that kept Ice Climbers relevant in a brutal melee meta, that with the game containing such poignant top tiers, refusing to see wobbling as a legitimate strategy was just a skill issue.
On Twitter today, I think Axe and King are very, very vocal on Twitter about banning wobbling. So it's no surprise that these guys are going to be super vocal about wobbling, because they always lose to wobbling. King has like the worst spacing on shield against Ice Climbers. It's a punish, but like all of the top 8 characters in the game,
this is kind of cope, but sure, okay.
All have like 0 to death punishes if you get like 1 or 2 reads.
His case was perhaps best illustrated at DreamHack Atlanta 2017 against Hungrybox. Chudat opened the set strong, going up 2 games.
I mean, Chu just has really good fundamentals. It's not even like, yes, like wobbling helped him a ton, but like, I don't know. I think that explanation of being like, oh, you're not spacing good is kind of weak, especially nowadays.
The crowd's going nuts. Everyone is behind Shootout right now in this crowd. Hungrybox is in hostile territory. Yes. He can't believe what's happening.
On his back foot, Hungrybox would tighten up and win the next 2 games back to back, leading to a game 5. In this 8-minute set, Hungrybox employed a strategy where he would immediately take out Nana and then position himself in the air where Sopo could not meaningfully contest him. With no threat to getting wobbled, he could then run out the clock. The strategy was incredibly effective, and with only 2 minutes left on the clock, Chudat would perform a drastic move.
He's doing it! This is the all-in! All the chips on the table! Yeah. All the chips on the table!
Oh my god. I didn't think I'd ever see it. The intentional,
was actually
the tactical suicide to get out of it.
In his eyes, wobbling...
Yeah, this was 5,000 IQ, actually.
Was the only win condition in such a lopsided matchup, so much so that he would willingly sacrifice a full stock to regain the ability to do it. But on the other side of the aisle stood players like Axe, a beloved competitor and one of the most vocal advocates for a wobbling ban.
You guys gotta ban wobbling. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? How do people not see it?
Axe openly admitted that his record against Ice Climbers players wasn't stellar, but his argument wasn't about personal results or even about tournament results in general. It was about principles.
For people that wobble, if I'm losing to them, what I really want to do is figure it out. Like, I want to beat these guys with or without wobbling. I think wobbling should be banned because I think that's what's best for the Smash community as a whole. You know, I'm thinking about what's going on at the levels below, like, me and Army and Bananas and all that. You know, I'm thinking more of like...
It was... Axe's argument based. It was so treacherous, dude. You were in the trenches at the mid to low level. When you would pull up to your local and some random as fuck guy was like, I play Ice Climbers now. I actually played Ice Climbers too, but I didn't wobble because I was awesome. But I remember I lived in Michigan for a summer while I was doing like an undergrad research thing. And I played with Quang, but Quang was playing like Fox back then, and then Quang played Ice Climbers, and we played an Ice Climbers Ditto in Michigan. I remember this so vividly, and I had lost. I think I had entered at what tournament? I don't know if I entered at Melee FC, but I entered at a tournament in Michigan, and it was literally just wobbling Ice Climbers versus not wobbling Ice Climbers, and Quang wobbled me like 4 times, and I was like, damn. That really sucks. Because it was just like in the Ditto 2, you're just down smash simulator until someone's Nana dies, and then it's like whoever loses the Nana first is gonna lose probably. So it's terrible. The Ices to Mario pipeline must be studied. Yeah, I went from 2 Ice Climbers to 1 Ice Climber who's Italian. Isn't that crazy? Many Arcadians have been won by wobbling Ices. This is true.
Like, if you're going to a tournament, right? You know, you make it a couple of rounds in bracket, you're doing really good, right? And then if you just getting wobbled, it just ruins everything. And it's not just getting wobbled, it's just the fact that it's an unblockable infinite that you can do anywhere on this with zero defense, like zero defense option, no counterplay. You know, you can't DI, you can't do mix-ups, you can't play melee. You're not playing melee at that point. You know, you see like things are really skewed when it comes to ice climbers that are just extremely good at getting wobbles. And I just wish that more melee could be played, because ice climbers, you know, have a lot more to them. Have a lot more to them than just like basing their entire game around getting a wobble. It's actually pretty sad that Ice Climbers players are kind of forced to play this way.
The philosophical divide became clear. Logically speaking, wobbling wasn't breaking the metagame of Melee, but emotionally, many players felt that wobbling was not indicative of skill in Melee, making it frustrating to play against. And in a 20-year-old grassroots game that lives and dies on players being passionate enough to continue, perhaps those feelings couldn't be ignored. But with wobbling only becoming more and more prevalent at high-profile events, many of the once impartial players began to lean towards the side of intervention. On February 8th, 2019, the Tennessee Smash community would take the first leap by announcing a formal wobbling ban.
Yoshi plays like fundamentally different Melee, but it doesn't like... It breaks the game in different ways, but like every character has ways to break the game, you know? Like, not to say like it's totally broken, but I get what you're saying.
Several Tennessee cities. This decision would have a downstream effect, as other regions also began to trial wobbling bans and see how it would affect the scene. Perhaps most notably, Gommel 2019 and Battle of BC3, two high-profile Canadian tournaments, would follow suit by banning wobbling at their annual iterations. At this point, the bans were seen as incredibly experimental. TOs were unsure how such a move would affect their tournaments, and ruled in favor of a trial period before making any hard decisions. But after one set that finally pushed the needle, the discourse would reach its boiling point. August 2019, the summer of Smash. Fresh off of a historic Smash Summit 8 victory and ranked 3rd in the world, Axe entered Super Smash Con as the 2nd seed in a super major boasting over 850 competitors. By all accounts, this should be another strong showing for Axe. It's early in the bracket, only the first round of the second phase of pools. If everything goes as planned, Axe will go against Chillin, who he has a solid record against. But after a surprise result in round 1 pools, Axe discovers that his next match will instead be a best of 3 against a relatively unknown ice climber player named Pudgy Panda. Pudgy Panda was a good player. He had solid performances in the tri-state area and a handful of respectable wins over high-level competitors, but he had never cracked the Melee top 100, and standing across from a player who was currently in contention for best in the world, most onlookers didn't expect the set to be all that close. That was, at least, until the set started. Pikachu vs Ice Climbers is widely considered one of the Electric Mouse's worst matchups. Being small and stubby, Pikachu needs to get in close to fight, and when the opponent can delete your stock off of a single grab, the punish ratio becomes brutally skewed. Pikachu's grab game is also central to his combo and edge guard sequences, but when there are two climbers at play, landing a safe grab becomes significantly harder. An early wobble on stock 2 sets the tone. Axe fights from behind, but the deficit proves to be too steep, and after a missed back throw into up smash, he's caught again, with the wobble sealing game 1 for Pudgy Panda. Axe wouldn't be a top player if he didn't have answers to ice climbers. Being incredibly skilled, he can utilize multiple characters and has even relied on them to be able to beat the climbers at other tournaments. So he switches to Falco, a character with a much better matchup against the climbers and one that Axe has been known for being incredibly proficient with. Axe starts off game 2 aggressive and strong. He's able to avoid getting wobbled entirely and closes out the game with a fresh stock to boot. The score is now 1-1, and Axe is looking much more confident, but without even realizing it, he's made a fatal mistake before game 3 even begins. These days, hop on a game of Slippy or a setup running the modern UCF patch, and characters will both spawn at neutral positions, but before modders chose to intervene, spawn points were determined by the port that a controller is plugged into. Place yourself in the wrong port and you could put yourself at a major disadvantage at the beginning of the game. To avoid getting caught by the gimmick, you would either have to memorize the port and stage combinations or request a neutral start where the players position themselves and don't begin playing until a certain point of the timer. On Dreamland, port 2 spawns on the left platform, port 1 spawns center stage, Axe's port 2, Pudgy Panda's port 1, a prime position for ice climbers to shark from below. Without realizing the position he's put himself in, Axe drops down from the platform as soon as the game begins, only to find himself in the hands of the climbers, and in less than a second, he's grabbed. His first stock is gone, setting the tone for the rest of the set. As the second stock plays out, Axe does a good job of separating the climbers at first, but gets caught while trying to target switch between the two. Now down to 2 stocks, things are starting to look grim, but Axe doesn't fold. He locks in, and is able to tie the stock count while coming out relatively unscathed. In the third stock, he's able to land a massive combo that leads to an edge guard. Axe now has the lead, and is looking poised to run away with the game, until he jumps right into a meaty down smash. It's now last stock. Both players are feeling the pressure. Pudgy Panda drops a grab. Axe's movement tightens, looking stiff and not fluid like usual. Then one poorly spaced down air places Axe between both climbers. Pudgy Panda lands a jab into one final grab, and Axe is caught in a wobble. Pudgy Panda takes his eyes off the TV and looks down at his controller to focus on the rhythm. There's no real reason to look at the TV, as there's nothing Axe can do. Deflated, Axe watches his character get pummeled to high percent. Although normally a player known for his positive attitude, you can see the visible frustration that has been compounding the entire set. Falco is launched into the blast zone, and the set is over. Pudgy Panda had made the upset over Axe 2-1. News of the outcome would begin to spread quickly. Usually such a big upset generates excitement, but this time, the news was a lot more polarizing. Pudgy Panda had done nothing wrong. They had won a fair game of Melee under the current rule set at the tournament, but even they would later tweet that the win didn't feel entirely earned or satisfying. As the tournament progressed, Pudgy Panda would go on to lose all his remaining sets. Satisfying. As the tournament progressed, Pudgy Panda would go on to lose all his remaining sets, both Ice Climber dittos. Meanwhile, Axe would battle his way into the top 16 on the loser's side, where he would eventually fall to Chudat in a painfully familiar scenario. For many, what they had just witnessed was too egregious. After watching such a skilled player lose to an unknown player with a controversial strategy, many prominent figures in the community had finally seen enough. On August 13th, just 2 days after the weekend of Super Smash Con, Juggle Guy, head tournament organizer of the prestigious Big House Tournament series, would release a blog post that announced wobbling would be banned at the next installment of the event. In his blog post explaining the decision, Juggle Guy would list 3 key reasons. 1. Wobbling leads to miserable play patterns and tournament experiences. 2. It doesn't fit the skill set criteria that we subjectively deem valuable to test in a tournament match. And 3. It's what the majority of in-person tournament attendees prefer right now. And with an influential tournament series like the big...
The point of it is that, like, Pudgy made an upset already over Chillin to get to Axe, right? So it doesn't really... It's not really an issue of seeding. And also, like, back then it was just a lot of people playing Ice Climbers and wobbling, right? And they were just finding crazy wins from it.
Big House finally taking the big step, others followed. Tournament by tournament, region by region, within months, wobbling would go on to become a universally banned technique from competitive Melee. For Ice Climber players who had built their game plans around it, the decision felt devastating. Some switched characters, while others slowly stepped away from the scene altogether. But over time, something interesting began to happen, and perhaps Axe was correct in that without wobbling, Ice Climbers would be unchained from the mechanic and begin to exhibit some unexplored potential. In the modern age of Melee, a new breed of Ice Climber players would emerge. With no wobbling to rely on, these players would be forced to push deeper than before. Handoffs are another way the Ice Climbers can devastatingly punish their opponent. However, they are much more situational and technically demanding to pull off. With throw speeds being weight dependent, handoffs require precise timing and character-specific knowledge. They weren't something an average player could master in a single session. With wobbling legal, there was no reason to go for the more difficult handoffs other than for style. But with wobbling...
I'm just saying, when I mained Ices 10 years ago, I did handoffs. I wasn't great at them, but I was beating a lot of South Carolina PR players with handoff Ices because I didn't want to wobble. I'm just saying. Just fundamentally insane people actually used Ice Climbers. I think handoff Ices back then were like this rare breed, right? Where you were like you're like the I only pick scissors guy talking about rock paper scissors. But I mean, it was like what the video is saying. It's part of the available and legal rule set, right? So you know, so much of what we do for Melee is just predicated around what we deem cool and acceptable. And it was acceptable back then. it is crazy, like, looking back at it now, that it was allowed to be around for that long. But, you know, they've turned more lame now because they are still very much like you can't interact with them in the same way you can't interact with wobbling. They're just a lot harder to do. So I think the whole argument for them is like, well, it's like more technically demanding than wobbling, so, you know.
Gone, Ice Climber players were forced to utilize the more flashy and difficult handoffs. Gradually, Ice Climbers regained traction in the meta. The Melee Top 100 would see plenty of Ice Climbers return to the top 100, with a few even being able to break into the top 10. And many of the characters' greatest tournament runs would come from the post-wobbling ban era. Even matchups that were previously thought to be unwinnable with wobbling legal would finally be overcome. Top Ice Climber player Nikki would go on to defeat Hungrybox's winning streak against Ice Climbers, and he did it without wobbling. With the new playstyle, even some of the most vocal proponents of a wobbling ban would come around to the climbers.
If I walked off of wobbling, and overall, the reception was pretty good. You know, mostly people were okay with it because obviously it was nasty to look at.
Chrome?
We got it banned.
I got Chrome in chat. What's up, bro?
Oh wow, thank you. Ices are actually pretty sick now. It's kind of sick to look at Ices. I root for Ices. I like Ices. It was just the wobbling thing.
Every character in Melee has critics. Every strategy has someone who finds it frustrating to play against. The challenge of a grassroots scene is to be able to come together and identify what the community wants to reward. Whether you agree with the wobbling ban or not, the Melee community chose to move forward without it. Newer players today will never have to experience the feeling of watching their character trapped in an unavoidable wobble. At least, not in the same way.
Why do people queue up for unranked just to run to the other side of the stage and never interact? Hey, I've posted many a clip of people doing that to me as soon as they see that it's me playing.
Days of wobbling are a bygone era, only to be remembered by veterans of the game who were around when the boundaries of competitive play were not as defined. Some may look back and wonder how something like wobbling even lasted as long as it did. Newer players might view wobbling the same way we now view the absurdity of the early Melee stage list. Perhaps the new blood is quick to dismiss such times as
I got a stageless video cooking up. Oh, homedawg, you are teeing me up for my next like 3 videos that are close to being done.
Archaic, but others might say that living through such times brews wisdom, invaluable experience that paved the way for everyone else. Because before we
this is the Rock Croc Pink Shinobi set? Yeah.
Dismiss the past as primitive, it's worth taking a step back and thinking about what we owe the players who came before us.
Random question, how did I get into Melee? I was a long-time watcher. I was watching in the days, I always brag about this, of AJ Panton, which I doubt most people in this chat know who that is. He was like the original VOD uploader with Homemade Waffles. Posted a bunch of tournament sets and things of that variety. Yeah, AJ Panton had, or AJP had the craziest quality for 2007 or whatever it was. So I just watched a ton. And then when I was in college, I watched a ton of like League of Legends and Call of Duty over edits, and I taught myself video editing because I thought it'd be cool to do similar montages like those. And that's how I kind of broke into YouTube space also. Ain't no way we're talking about this. All right.
There's perhaps no player rivalry in Melee history with a greater cultural impact than Leffen vs. Chillin. Scroll through VG Bootcamp, one of Smash's most comprehensive tournament archives, and their set stands as the most viewed Melee match on the channel, sitting comfortably at over 1 million views. The amount of people who have seen this set is roughly the same as the population of Delaware. This is not a high-stakes grand finals set of a tournament. There is no life-changing cash prize on the line. Instead, it's a mere exhibition match. So how did such a relatively low-stakes set cement itself as a monument in Smash Bros. History? Understanding Leffen vs. Chillin requires setting some context into the two players at the heart of it. Chillin, formerly known as ChillinDude829, is about as old school of a Melee player as it gets. He's been playing since the birth of the competitive scene in 2002. Being one of the earliest top-level Fox players in the game, many of the modern-day bread-and-butter combos can be credited to the early pioneering of Chillin. In Melee's golden age, Chillin was a tried-and-true top player.
I thought about doing a like Chillin-focused video too, just because he is such an important figure, I feel, in the community that doesn't really get like recognized that often. So I'm glad it's being pointed out here.
any bracket from the MLG era, and you'll often find his name deep in top 8s.
I feel, Henry, I feel like it's hard. There are hard left turns, but they're connected really well. Like, so if, I mean, like these are like separated by segments of or chapters, right? But like the way that that certain things like the wobbling into like whatever else has been like pretty neat flow wise. Like I don't know if I would have found the line myself to go like FalcoMaster into like Albert beating Hungrybox as like a narrative line. I think that's like pretty unique.
But perhaps his most famous claim to fame was when he became the first player ever to defeat Ken, early Melee's undisputed champion, otherwise known as the King of Smash.
Up smash.
Chillin's so clean, yeah.
As Nintendo released Brawl in 2008, Melee's presence at major esports events began to shrink, ushering in what the community now calls the Dark Ages, but the game never truly disappeared. Players continued playing Melee well past the new iterations, and as the 2010s began to come around the corner,
Yo, do you guys all subscribe to homedawg, by the way?
Challenger would enter the competition, but this time, they would come from across the ocean. Hailing from Sweden, Leffen began entering tournaments in the early 2010s and quickly rose through the European ranks. In a region dominated by Armada, one of the 5 gods of Melee and the only international player capable of consistently challenging the American gods, Leffen would make a name for himself as a rising star, placing well in European and overseas events. But he would also make a name for himself through other means, namely his arrogance and outspoken personality. That persona would catch up with him in
homedawg is the YouTuber of this video, Chrome. It's the pinned link. We're just trying to show some love to the creator.
2013, when he was officially banned from attending.
homedawg could be at Stock Exchange for all we know. For all we know, it's very possible.
A large collective of European tournaments. In the announcement, Armada and other European community leaders released detailed documentation outlining patterns of toxic behavior. This collection of documentation would later become infamously known as evidence.zip. The ban, however, was temporary, and when Leffen was allowed to return in 2014 under conditions of improved conduct, he would make his grand return more skilled than ever.
Hungrybox. Oh!
I feel like it would be so hard for my channel to cover this stuff now, because so many people will just jump to like a Leffen is bad narrative, which, you know, whether you want to talk about him being a jerk or not, like that's neither here nor there. I just think it'd be so hard for me to do some type of coverage on this now, especially that my channel's gotten a lot bigger.
Oh! And then Leffen jumps out of his chair!
One by one, he began taking sets off of the 5 gods of Melee, something none of the rest of the field was capable of doing. By the end of the year, he was ranked as the 6th best player in the world, and would be coined the God Slayer for his ability to contest with them. Such feats were unprecedented, and with that prowess came ego. Leffen's skill was undeniable, but his reputation remained incredibly controversial. Having such a forward personality led many to brandish Leffen as Melee's villain, a title he was more than happy to wear.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, man, it's just something you're gonna have to deal with, I think. What you'll come to know if you choose to keep creating on this platform is you will come across people, and like, you know, maybe some of the comments you're getting are like pretty measured and reasonable, just like from the context that they have about like evidence.zip or whatever, but like you will see opinions that you did not think were possible, right? Like things that are crazy. So you just gotta, like, you have to learn how to not let it affect you in a negative way. And it's tricky because when you're small, like you want to, or like when you're a smaller channel, you want to kind of like encourage these types of, you want to encourage comments, you want to interact with them, you want to be engaging, and be like on and available to like foster the community and like grow your community. But it's tough. It's tough for sure. So I definitely feel you on that. Leffen's like, no, why don't you play me? I'm gonna take insane dump on Chillin. Come on. I didn't know Hbox like goated it. That's pretty funny. Everyone was toxic back then, but yeah, I mean, when you have an entire like zip folder of stuff built against you because you were like annoying when you were a teenager. That's a different story.
If it meant
you got to curate your community before your community curates you. That's actually extremely based advice, and I'm glad that it's showing up on the stream because homedawg's in the YouTube chat and Chroma's in the Twitch one. I had a problem with that for a really long time. And I think I've done a lot better for my own channel at like people being like normal and nice, like all of you guys talking right now. It's tough. Definitely delicate balance, Henry, for sure. Fostering community and letting go of things you can't control.
This brings us to Apex 2015. Melee has just seen a huge boost of attention thanks to its resurgence at EVO and the viral Smash Brothers documentary. The esports craze is in full swing, and with
don't
Smash
take a
in the
stance
spotlight,
against YouTubers, man. That's me. Don't take a stance against me.
Teams and brands are eager to get their hands on talent. As official rosters are announced, many of the signed players are old school veterans who had notable features in the documentary. One of those inclusions was Chillin, who would sign with Team Curse and later be absorbed.
Who remembers Energems real quick? There you go.
Into Team Liquid. Leffen, who himself was a free agent, was unhappy with sponsors choosing to value legacy players over the current rankings, and he let his opinions be known. In a now infamous tweet, he called out Chillin's sponsor directly, stating that they had made a terrible roster selection. Chillin would respond, and after some escalation, Leffen would proceed to call Chillin a has-been. Chillin then fired back.
Like, this is the kind of shit I feel like people wanted like last year when they were like, oh, everyone's whining and there's no beef. It's like, damn, dude, he actually added Curse and was like, you're dumb, you get no hose, like your sponsored players are bad, I could beat all of them. Like that actually is so beast mode.
Back with words that would define the rivalry. Respect your elders. From there, the challenge was made. An exhibition money match at Apex. The stakes, $100. And
those things had to have fentanyl in it. They had to have some type of illicit drug in there.
The rights to don the neutral color fox that both players utilized in tournament. Leffen agreed, and the stage was set for the Salty Suite. Fans were invested, and as the date drew nearer, Leffen would only double down on his lack of respect for the veteran player, dismissing the need to waste any energy on the spectacle.
And it's gonna be 5-0. That's how it's gonna be. I really wish he would have more of a shot so I could set him up as a goal and I practiced really hard. I wish that was the case. $100 is not a lot of money, but as it is now, $100 compared to a 15,000 or more prize pot, why should I waste my time practicing against him? I'm gonna beat him anyway. He takes a game, sure he takes a game. He loses his color by the end of the day anyway. Like I don't care about Chillin. Everyone's just, oh, I hope you beat Leffen. No one's ever saying, oh, I hope you win Apex, Chillin. You wonder why? Both me and he knows that he could study me all day, and maybe in the worst case scenario he wins, but he has no shot at winning Apex whatsoever, and he will probably never have a shot at winning a major.
Leffen is like if Larry Bird was lame. That's a crazy comment, dude. Holy shit. Oh my god.
Playing and won absolutely nothing. But that's just how it is. I'm happy that you give me the money, but please practice for Apex instead of me.
But having been forged in some of the rowdiest days of Smash, Chillin himself was no stranger to talking smack, and in response, Chillin would unveil what is perhaps one of the most iconic pieces of Melee media ever created.
Are we listening to the whole thing? Just the beginning.
Make this pussy stop talking. The level of effort put into the trash talk here was unprecedented. Chillin had won the hearts of the people, and by the time the Salty Suite arrived, he had legions of fans rooting for him to take down Leffen. Now on stage, the two are given the opportunity.
Dude, seeing that live at the Apex venue must have been life-changing.
To make an opening statement.
I think this guy talks a lot, and it's about time for him to learn some respect.
Leffen, what do you have to say to Chillin before we start?
I'm sorry. All right, let's just play. I can bother this fraud, and let's move on, all right?
This was peak,
Let's play some Melee.
Game 1 starts promising. Chillin takes the first stock and builds an early lead. But once Leffen finds his footing, the skill gap becomes obvious. Leffen is just converting much harder, and Chillin loses steam.
You're coping for Chillin really hard, but he did not play well in this set. Yeah, like the annals of history would not have allowed it to go any other way.
Not completely flustered yet, Chillin takes Leffen to Fountain of Dreams for Game 2. Despite an early self-destruct, Chillin manages to keep it competitive. By the last stock, it's looking like Chillin might even take it, and the crowd is getting hype for him. It's now a last hit situation. At kill percent, Chillin manages to land a dash attack. By all means, this is an easy confirm into an up smash to win the game. But in the heat of the moment, Chillin completely whiffs the finisher. The only thing launched is Chillin into a premature pop-off. Leffen gives Chillin plenty of opportunity.
The clip where Chillin's analyzing this for like 2 hours on his stream and he like edits the video so that he won that game is so funny.
Opportunities to take the stock in bad scraps, but at this point, Chillin's nerves have got the best of him. After narrowly avoiding death, Leffen steals Game 2, and from here, there was no coming back. For the rest of the exhibition, Leffen would never lose the lead. Perhaps if Leffen was playing his A game, it could still be considered respectable, but Leffen was not. In fact, he was intentionally throwing out scrubby options to openly disrespect Chillin, and when those bad options would catch Chillin off guard, he'd openly taunt him, smirking and laughing maniacally for all to see. Chillin was
this was the most snowball rolling downhill moment. That missed up smash was heard states away around the world.
Definitely the underdog, but being a very skilled and legendary player in his own right, many people did expect a competitive set. What they got instead was the complete opposite. The final score was 5-0, and when prompted for his thoughts on what just transpired, Chillin would once again leave another trademark in the landscape of Smash
just finished
and
the video
gaming
before
culture.
coming here. Good. I'm glad you watched it there first.
You have anything you want to say to the people?
Might be.
But the old guard wasn't done yet. After watching his fellow old school legend be defeated in such a brutal way, Mango would hop onto the stage to defend Chillin's honor.
This man, okay, I went to his country and he beat me. Okay. But you come to my country and you beat my man 5-0. If we play in bracket, we're gonna put 1,000 on it. 1,000.
I think I put this in my Apex documentary when I interviewed Gimmer. I'm pretty sure he said in our call, this was again from like 5 years ago now, but like he said something to the tune of like, while this was happening, he basically told Mango, like, you have to do something. Like, you have to like get some heat off of Chillin, dude, because this is like getting too intense. And so I guess that's like what part of what prompted him to go up there, which I think is pretty funny.
1,000.
Dude, yeah, Leffen putting up an entire mortgage on a house after 5-0ing Chillin, dude, is pretty insane. You're right.
Yo!
The two would meet the next day in winner's semis of the bracket, and in a fairly lopsided set, Leffen would take the win 3-1. In one weekend, two of Melee's most old school heroes were defeated by the new blood. Such decisive victories were a massive statement for Melee's villain.
Is there anything to say? Is there really? Respect your elders!
But the aftermath of the Salty Suite was surprisingly positive. The buzz generated around the spectacle would garner massive attention to Melee, arguably being one of the rare Melee moments to transcend outside of the world of Smash and into greater culture. The set is remembered fondly, and although there have been attempts, the magic of that Salty Suite has pretty much never been replicated since. Ironically enough, the actual player beef was short-lived. After about only a year, Leffen would grant Chillin the rights to start using his original color again. The two would even take a friendly photo together at Big House, and take opportunities to lean into the meme through live performances of the diss track.
Oh god, cancel one looking at your fox. Take this much for and lose it 5 for stock.
The genius.com lyrics are insane. No, I think the prize pool was like 5 figures, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, Melee did used to be like WWF. It was pretty fire back then. That's like kind of what I think people really miss when they say there's no beef or whatever. But yeah. Oops.
On his personal Twitch stream reacting to the money match, Chillin would even go as far as creating an edited version of the match to prank his viewers to thinking he'd actually landed that up smash and won the second game.
Oh no, not like this. Oh no, not like this.
It's so fucking funny.
But yeah. Wow. All right, let's go. 1-1. 1-1.
That's so
fuck
funny.
yeah, Chillin, dude.
It was a hilarious stream moment for his viewers, but it also presented a strange alternate timeline. There's a world where Chillin actually landed that up smash, and perhaps even managed to win the entire set. In that timeline, one of Smash's biggest meme moments would instead be one of its greatest underdog stories. A tried and true legend of the game teaches a cocky punk what it means to be a competitor. That's not the timeline we live in. Chillin got 5-0'd, and Leffen would leave Apex more or less vindicated in his beliefs that everyone else was washed and he was the future. Maybe Leffen was right, or perhaps Leffen did need to learn some respect, and it just wasn't Chillin who would be teaching it to him.
Ooh, yes sir. See, I like these transitions a lot. Like like we kind of have a good, if you're a Melee like endemic person, you kind of know that
Loveage would emerge onto the scene around 2007. Instead of migrating to Brawl, he would continue to play Melee during its dark ages. Having been inspired by technical Fox players like Eggs and Silent Wolf, Loveage would work to develop his own style. He would quickly develop a reputation for his flashy tech skill, which was showcased in a series of tech skill videos, but his play was more than just high APM, and over time, he would rise through the ranks in his home turf of the incredibly stacked SoCal scene. In just a few years, Loveage would establish himself as one of the best players in the era. In 2011, he was arguably one of the best in the world, with his defining moment coming at the very first iteration of the Big House, where he would defeat the local Midwest players before taking the tournament over his fellow SoCal player S2J. At a time when bragging rights were the only currency Melee really had, it wasn't uncommon for top players to be boastful about their skill. But Loveage would remain humble, citing hard work and a dedicated effort to improve as the driving force behind his results.
When you observe players or you're a fan of a player, you're pretty much only exposed to their YouTube videos, so in the public eye, people are only as good as their YouTube videos are. So when people say that I was super technical, now
yeah, that's what I mean though, Henry. It's like these are really unique lines to like craft this narrative. It probably took a long time. I have a lot of respect for it.
It's kind of dumb because it was a really slow, gradual process where I got just a little bit better at the game. I still wouldn't even say that I'm smart. I'm pretty fucking dumb compared to Mango, Dr. PP Armada, the really top tier players who actually are way better at fighting games than me. But for a long time, my tech skill carried me. Like in SoCal, basically, when I was first going to tournaments, I just got carried by tech skill because I practiced a lot and I got pretty technical, and I was more technical in my area. So I wouldn't have to think to beat people. I'd mostly just try my hardest and combo really well, and I'd win. But I hit a wall and I couldn't win anymore, and then I had to learn how to adapt to people and get smarter at the game.
2011 and 2012 would mark the peak of Lovage's career as a tournament competitor. As Melee entered its renaissance in the mid-2010s, Loveage would begin leaning into a community figure role, stepping back from competition to invest more of his time as a personality in the scene. His laid-back demeanor, paired with a deep knowledge of the game, would make him a fan-favorite commentator, one who is a regular invite to commentary lineups at some of the biggest events of the year. Although his competitive focus had faded, Loveage was still a threat when he showed up to a tournament, but with an ever-growing pool of rising stars and hungry new players, it seemed like his glory days as a competitor were mostly behind him. Loveage himself would even acknowledge the drop in performance, jokingly referring to himself as washed in his Twitter bio. Having shifted his energy elsewhere, it seemed like Loveage, once considered one of the best in the world, was satisfied to settle down and enjoy from the sidelines. But Melee had different plans for him. There was still a villain on the loose who needed to be humbled, and the ever-moving clock of karma had finally ticked. Loveage would be invited to commentate Game Tyrant Expo, a super major held in Salt Lake City. His job was to be on the mic, but being a competitor at heart, he would opt to enter the singles bracket as well. With nearly all of Melee's top players in attendance, he would be seeded 36th, expected to make it into the top 48 phase of the bracket, but not much further. Also in attendance is Leffen, seeded 4th and among the favorites to win the entire event. Pools play would get underway, and Leffen would cruise to the pool finals without dropping a single game,
him and Scar
nothing out of the
are
ordinary.
still the two that
To
I
advance
would
on
have
the
loved to do
winner's side,
commentary with,
he is
just as, like,
expected
a
to face
collision of
Bladewise, a highly skilled Peach player who had been consistently ranked in the top 40s for the past several years. But then something unexpected happens. When it's time to play, Leffen's opponent on stage is not a Peach. Bladewise had been sent to losers by Loveage. The two were both seasoned veterans with sets going back to the Dark Ages, and while Bladewise would go on to be the higher ranked player, on this day, Loveage would get the better of him with an upset. On paper, this is a gift. Leffen's bracket had just gotten easier, as by the numbers, his next opponent was a weaker one. By all means, this should be a clean 2-0 into the winner's side of top 48. And after the first stock opens with a near 0 to death on Loveage, it's looking like it's headed exactly in that direction. But rather than spiraling, Loveage turns up the jets and begins to fire back.
European
wait a minute!
Ooh, late bear. He's
Oscar
just him.
moving with him though. He's like, look, man.
He's been around the block. You know what I mean? This is not his first rodeo. Not his first top player.
He's like, yeah, you got 2 sponsorships, but you didn't win Big House, dude.
The two would go blow for most of the set. Leffen would have the more optimized punish game, but with flashy movement and big callouts, Loveage would keep it competitive the entire time. It wouldn't be until the final stock that Leffen would clean it up. In the player cam, Leffen hypes himself up and takes a deep breath, an unusual reaction against the player this early in the tournament. He had won the game, but the set had clearly been more stressful than he had anticipated. Loveage selects Pokemon Stadium and Game 2 begins. Leffen's movement starts to look a bit off, while Loveage looks completely in his element, taking every opportunity to be stylish and aggressive. For the first time, Leffen falls behind, letting out sighs in the player cam as he tries to collect himself.
The new ninja?
Lovage's playstyle is far from optimal, but his unique and unorthodox movement would catch Leffen off guard time and time again. After continuously keeping Leffen on his toes through the final stock, Loveage would chase him across Pokemon Stadium into a running Shine Up Smash, sealing Game 2 for the commentator.
And Oscar on the board!
Run up, Shine Up Smash.
When Game 3 begins on Battlefield, Loveage immediately goes on the offense and refuses to let Leffen breathe, and without taking a single hit, he cleans up the first stock in a way that feels deeply reminiscent of old school Melee. The thought of an upset begins to circulate throughout the crowd. Having seen Leffen come back from similar situations before, the commentators urge viewers not to count him out.
But
Oscar probably won't commentate later today.
Please don't count Leffen out.
Oh, yeah.
But after Loveage reads and answers every one of Leffen's recovery options in the second stock, the possibility becomes undeniable. Loveage isn't just winning, he seems to have a complete download on Leffen's play. Call out after call out, Leffen's movement looks shakier than ever.
That I think Leffen wants to go for. It's like his reads have 100%.
He hella knows where Leffen's going.
Just blocking the up smash. Weak hit there.
Okay.
Wow, perfectly spaced.
Oh.
Leffen flubbing.
Yeah.
He's just.
Oscar just has like a.
He's got the reads right now.
Yeah, man. He just like he's catching.
I see spaghetti, honestly, from both players right now, but Oscar Spaghetti is just the
Oh, what?
The crowd comes alive, hungry for the upset. With a smile, Loveage tells him to calm down.
I'm really glad to see that this person's entered into the Melee YouTube sphere. Hell yeah. Love shouting out some other folks, and I think we're all excited to see him do some more stuff.
He isn't quite finished yet. Down to his last stock, the defeat is visible in Leffen's play. The typically oppressive Fox player looks like...
This is also like really like well crafted in the sense that like it is intuitively going from like we're talking about the Chewdat Leffen set, and like there is a little bit of stuff in between, like we talk about the Pudgy Panda, but it's like Chewdat Leffen into Leffen Chillin into Loveage Leffen, right? Like there is like a continuous thread of a character like winning, losing, winning, whatever here, which is pretty cool.
Like they're struggling to do anything but try and survive. And after one more unorthodox edge guard sequence,
It's over. Damn.
3 stocked. Game 3.
Damn.
What other videos on the schedule? I'm probably stopping after this one, to be honest, because this already ran pretty long, and I am pretty tired from my
I don't
volleyball
think he's
games,
washed,
so I should
bro.
probably go to bed.
He was looking clean if he's washed.
Despite having just defeated one of the best players in the world in a match nobody gave him a shot in, Lovage's reaction would be surprisingly understated. He simply smiles in mild disbelief as his friends pop off around him. But despite his humbleness, what he had done was massive. He had avenged his fallen old heads and taught the young blood a lesson about what it means to be a Melee legend. News would spread almost instantly, with fans rejoicing and creating memes. Reacting to the tournament set, Leffen would take to Twitter with a series of messages noting that it was
Maybe we'll make this a Movie Monday sort of thing, and I'll just steal Coney's bit and just be far worse at streaming than Coney is, but you know, we'll leave it at that. Let's watch the rest of this though.
The worst he had ever played in a tournament setting, and that he'd probably never hear the end of it.
You know, I feel bad for my man Leffen because I know he's gonna get it on social media.
Dude, but
he's gonna get it.
But we've seen Leffen do this.
He's gonna
before.
get it again.
But
he already got it from
we've
Oscar.
seen him.
Lovage's reaction on Twitter was a single word. Cool. In 2020, Melee Stats would host March Madness, the greatest upsets of all time, a collection of 64 upsets from across Melee's entire history, pitted against each other in a bracket format with fans voting for the winner. When the dust settled, Loveage taking it over the Godslayer Leffen would be crowned as the greatest Melee upset of all time. And after finally being humbled, perhaps Leffen had learned some respect after all. In June of 2022, Chillin would tragically suffer a stroke that would land him in emergency care and needing heart surgery. After Chillin's brothers set up a GoFundMe to help cover the enormous medical costs, the Melee community and the broader gaming world would rally together, raising money and spreading awareness for the cause. Leffen would spread the word in solidarity, and in honor of Chillin, would vow not to use the vanilla fox skin at his next competition. It was a small gesture, but one that had signified that he was finally showing some respect to his elders. The better player always wins, except when they don't. And in those moments, something shifts. An upset doesn't just change a bracket, it makes you feel like the game itself is bigger than anyone in it. But those moments are rarer than they feel in the heat of them, because like gravity, there's an invisible force quietly working to restore order. In probability theory, there's a mathematical law known as the law of large numbers. It states that in any scenario with a variable outcome, the more times you repeat it, the closer your result will inch toward what the odds predict. Randomness doesn't disappear, but over time, it gets drowned out. What's left standing are the numbers doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Walk into a casino, and every game on the floor is built around one quiet guarantee. The house always wins. Not on every hand, not on every spin, but over time, always. Each game is engineered to look achievable, but with an edge quietly baked in favor of the house. Across millions of bets, the house's return is virtually inevitable. It's not magic, it's just the math. Melee is not so different. For every occasional upset, thousands of players have fallen to the Melee elite, and thousands more never even earned themselves the opportunity to meet and bracket. It's almost ironic that a game designed to be approachable would reveal itself to be so brutal and unforgiving. Only a rare few have been able to rise to the top of Melee, and once there, they don't often leave. But occasionally, someone still beats the house. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's divine intervention, maybe the odds aren't what we thought they were, or maybe it's pure unchanneled skill that finally gets its moment to shine. Whatever the case may be, moments like these remind us why thousands still choose to spectate and compete in this 25-year-old video game. They remind us of the value proposition of Melee. Melee has no explicit social classes, no exclusive leagues, no luck of the draw of being born with the perfect genetics or the perfect upbringing to prime you for the big stage. Open brackets are for everyone. All you need is a controller and the willingness to put yourself on the line. Maybe it never amounts to much, a fun hobby, a way to pass the time. Maybe it can be painful, losses that replay in your head long after the venue has cleared. But maybe, just maybe, you can do something great. Because even if it's only for a short moment, maybe you can go against the odds and beat the house.
Nice! There you have it, folks. That was fun. That was a fun one to watch. Instinct. I remember chatting with you at that Gommel. Glad to see you over in the chat. Hey, that was a fun one, man. Homedawg, if you're still here, well done. Well done for sure. If I had a spare 2.5 hours to stay up until the wee hours of the night, I would put your other video up here as well. But I'm glad I got to check that one out. Thank you for giving me permission to look at it on this stream to a humble viewer base. You did a great job. I hope you keep going, for sure. It's very admirable to do videos of this length, right? Like, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And it's clear just from the gap in time between the first and second one, like the planning that went into that, the preparation, the crafting of the storylines. It's well done. Very happy to help you out, and hope you stick around and keep doing it. We are calling it there, folks. Very fun watch. If you guys like this stuff, it's I mean, listen, React content is easy. Like, I just sit here and I watch stuff, and then I talk to you, and you guys ask me a bunch of questions, and it's chill. And you guys already know that I'm not a streamer like that. If this is something that I can do like once a week, maybe on like a Monday night or something like that, I totally will. A bunch of you joined my server. I'll drop the link to my server in here one more time. Shoutouts Jazara as well, who probably will be... He just gave me like a ton of stream ideas, just completely unprompted. Dude is the GOAT. But you know, he'll be working on the BonusWalt channel, and we'll keep trying to feed some stream stuff over there while we can. Yeah, man, that was fun. I have to sleep, but I wanted to watch that video. I hope you guys liked it. Definitely go show homedawg some love as well. Watch the video, interact with it, not just the stuff that I did here and the react that I did here. Go to the actual link that's pinned on both the chats. Check it out over there, and show him some love, and make sure that he can keep on going. That's it. I'm gonna sign off, because I don't really know how else to do this other than saying thanks for watching.